All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Have a small two-game slate on this Thursday. Pricing seems to be increased for Giannis, not so much Jokic. What's kind of your initial thoughts for the small two-game slate?
Yeah, man. Two gamer, not always the best. Not my favorite, certainly. I mean, the good news is we got high totals. I guess we have a decision to make between Giannis and Jokic, or neither. We're certainly not
Mhm.
playing both. But yeah, not much value. Not a ton of news that we're waiting on. Not a ton of news that we already got.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a kind of tricky slate. I will say, excuse me, not a good slate for cash games or low risk contests. Definitely more of kind of a large field type slate. But yeah, it's going to be tough to get different. So I think that's our main goal here is to try to find ways to get a little bit different because obviously ownership is going to be super condensed on a two gamer.
Yeah, just looking at it right now, we're getting 79% for Trey Jones, and then a lot of people are just like in the really 25 range, but got some 40. So yeah, it's gonna be tough to get different. I guess thankfully the Bucks game could be a blowout. You know, maybe what was it yesterday with Cleveland, Tristan Jackson and like Sam Murrow were okay punts, hoping that the game would blow out, and they ended up hitting value. Maybe
Yeah.
we go with that approach today. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I'm hoping it's a competitive game personally,
Mhm.
because the Bucks are on a back to back, and they had to travel from Indiana to San Antonio here, which isn't like the
Yeah.
farthest trip, but they were on the road last night. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be building for two games. I mean, we could definitely talk through strategy. There's certainly going to be merit to maybe game stacking here. There's a lot of different ways to approach this. Personally, I'm playing like lighter than I usually do tonight. I have 10 lineups in the $2. I'm not even going to max it because there's not enough combinations I even like. And then I have one in the 25 SE on FanDuel. Probably throw a lineup on DK just so I can kind of give advice on it. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
not a great slate, honestly.
I kind of want to start out with my like news and notes portion. I kind of want to start out with my biggest decision on the night, which to me it's like, do we go Jackson Davis? Do we go Kaminga? Do we go Looney or do we go Sarge? Because I feel like probably Looney's at a good price tag. He's kind of chalk as he should be. Jackson Davis, if he continues to get minutes, is in a good spot. But then got the foul trouble risk going against Nikola Jokic, which is what happened in the last game. So both Sarge and Looney got some run. And you also have Kaminga, who's been playing better. So that's my biggest kind of deciding factor really for this slate is like what to do with the Golden State bigs going against Jokic.
Yeah, so Kerr's definitely gone to Jackson Davis more lately. I do think it's interesting. Looney played over 20 minutes the last time these two teams matched up. I'm trying to pull up the popcorn machine now just to take a look at the game flow here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Jackson Davis was named the starter after that game. So I don't know. I think I prefer Jackson Davis, but obviously he's going to be way more popular. But I think defensively, Looney has done not a great job on Jokic, but probably
Yeah.
a better job than what we could expect from Jackson Davis here. But yeah, man, it's tough. And I do like Kaminga a lot on DK just because of the
Yeah.
price more than anything. Like, I almost think he's a separate conversation than the two centers. Like, he's going to be competing for minutes with Wiggins and Pods and some of the other wings. You did bring up Saric, but I think the
Yeah.
question of TJD or Looney is a good one. And I mean, my first initial thought is definitely TJD. He's been the way better player, getting more minutes. But on a slate where we're really struggling to find edges, like I'm trying to find something to get me onto Looney. I just haven't necessarily done it yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, for now, I think it's probably TJD for me, but obviously the ownership's going to be dramatically different between the two, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And then kind of get into the more news, I guess, portion of this video. The biggest news that we really have for this video is the Spurs are a little bit banged up. We got news that Zach Collins is out. He's been out. Doug McDermott's going to be out in this game, and then Branham is looking like he's going to sit as well. So I just really want Wemby to. He's projected at 27 minutes. I want that to happen. He's gotten like 26 is his most minutes he's gotten over the past few games, and obviously with this game having blowout risk, I don't love that, but he's someone, especially on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel, someone on DraftKings where if he's 25% owned on a 2-game slate and he does get 27 minutes, I think he could really go for like 50 in this. Like it's only 2 more minutes or so, but really could crush if he does get that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things working against Wemby here. I mean, the number one thing is Greg Popovich. I mean, he's definitely got training wheels on him right now. It seems like they don't
Yes.
want to give him much run, which is obviously unfortunate. Played 26 minutes last time against Memphis, like you mentioned. The other thing, too, though, is this is a very tough matchup for bigs, and Wemby
Yes.
certainly is a big. You're not only dealing with Giannis, but also Brook Lopez, who late in his career has developed into actually a really solid defensive center. I will say, I mean, at reasonable ownership and the price on DK, I do have some interest. If he was popular, I'd be very comfortable fading him, but it doesn't look
Yeah.
like he is at all. So on a 2 game slate, he's certainly a good way to get a little bit different. But could I say I'm confident in him getting 26 plus minutes? No, not at all.
Yeah.
And Pop does have him on a short leash. I know this is a nationally televised game. Um, I don't know. I don't know that Pop really cares about that necessarily.
No.
So it's just, man, you're not only competing with one of the best defensive front courts, you're also competing with Wemby's head coach here. So it's tough for me to get excited about the play, but I do think on a 2 game slate, anyone with upside at low ownership has some appeal. But yeah, I mean, I built 10 by hand already coming in here on FanDuel. I had no Wemby, which seems a little bit insane. But yeah, I
Yeah.
have trouble at 9,500 seeing him hit a ceiling if he's only going to play 26 minutes. Again, against Giannis and Lopez. Like, you'd think logically they're going to need more of him here. But yeah, I want to look up coach speak. I haven't heard anything official, but he hasn't played 30 minutes since the 17th of December. So
Yeah.
it's definitely giving me some pause.
And it's crazy because, like, you would think with Zach Collins being out and really Calvin Johnson coming in off the bench, like, it logically makes sense for him to get minutes. And to like second that, like, you got Barlow and Sandro really not getting any run either, which is very strange. Which that's why tonight I'm like, someone's gonna have to get minutes. Is it gonna be Sandro? Is it gonna be Barlow? Probably Barlow. But like, sure,
Man.
if we, especially on FanDuel, if we can't get to Wemby, which I kind of agree with, are we looking at one of those two bigs? Because like one of them should get minutes in this game. I have no idea which one it is, and if it's a blowout, like one of those two could be a valuable asset tonight. Do you have a read on maybe which one it would be, or is it just take a guess or just stay away?
I mean, it seems like Pop's interested in getting Barlow more minutes lately. Again, I'm trying to read the mind of the hardest mind to read, but it does seem like he's kind of moved up in the rotation, even when this team is pretty healthy. So I think I would get to Barlow before Sandro, but I will say, obviously, Sandro has been the better fantasy point per minute producer
Yeah.
when he does get those minutes. But yeah, I don't mind getting to a little bit of Barlow. Sean V bringing up this very interesting point. It is Wemby's birthday today. And man, I mean, what better gift than maybe 6 extra minutes? I wish that was something we could bank on. But again, I don't mind getting 2 of them on DK, especially at low ownership. But on FanDuel, it's just tough for me to get excited about him at 9,500, not expecting him to play over 26 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like it just seems like such a good play. But the field is kind of sharp to the minutes here. It's rare that Pops is suddenly going to give him more run. And I know that we have a few guys out, but I actually think it's Keldon Johnson who's going to benefit the most. He's kind of seen inconsistent minutes coming off the bench, coming off 3 games in a row, though, where he's gotten over 30. So he's someone I really want to get to here, hoping his ownership comes down a bit once those starting
Yeah.
lineups are ruled out. But man, it's like logically, if you're just talking game theory, like Wemby makes all the sense in the world. But when you kind of dig into the basketball side of it, you dig into what Pop's been doing lately and the matchup, etc., I can understand why he is low on. So certainly a valuable talking point. Like, I don't mind spending the time on it.
Yeah.
But man, it's just like I want to play him, but it's like I don't know. You're really hoping for a lot of things to align for you.
Yeah. On tonight's, I think like to close up my build, I'd be fine kind of ending up on the potential low price Spurs players, whether that's Seti, whether that's Blake Wesley, who's getting a little bit of ownership, or Barlow or Sandro. Like, I'm kind of fine with just ending up on one of them to make a build work, but I don't know if I'm exactly like targeting any of them going on my way. We did get a quick question here, kind of. It's a tough question to ask right now or answer. Are you guys going stars and scrubs or balance? I think on a 2 game slate you can do both. You mentioned you're doing 10 lineups so far. Kind of how is that process been for you? Is it more balanced or more studs and duds?
Yeah, I mean, I may be shooting myself in the foot, but I'm going to be obnoxiously heavy on Giannis tonight. I do think this game stays relatively close, at least close enough that he's going to have to play into the fourth quarter. Again, it is a back-to-back. They did have to travel last night. The Spurs are rested, and I know the Spurs aren't a good team, but I do think at home they should be able to at least hang here for as long as they need to. Giannis came out really cold last night, still
Mm-hmm.
put up a pretty decent score. So my stand today is getting way over on Giannis. I see his ownership is climbing a bit. But he's really my starting point on both sides. I think I have like 70-80% on FanDuel across those 10 lineups. He'll be in my DK lineup when I do get around to building that. So yeah, it's not that I want to go full stars and scrubs. The other play I like, and we'll get to, is Jamal Murray. Earlier in the day, it looked
Yeah.
like Dame was going to be super chalky. I preferred Murray in a vacuum. Curry is going to be the low-owned option with upside that I think some people are going to want to get to. But of those high-priced guards, I really like Murray. So if you call Murray and Giannis like stars and everything else scrubs, then I guess it's stars and scrubs. But those are
Yeah.
really the two plays that I'm prioritizing as pay-ups today. And then from there, I'm pretty balanced otherwise. So I don't know. It's tough to really say stars and scrubs when I'm only paying for two guys mostly.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jamal Murray. I don't know. I've had a tough time wanting to get to Giannis, honestly. Again, kind of for the reasons that you mentioned as negatives. At the same time, he is someone that should just crush in this matchup against the Spurs. So I get it both ways. Like, this is by far a smash spot for him against the Spurs. Last time out against the Spurs, 34 minutes, which is kind of what I'm expecting for him tonight. Again, back end of back to back, he put up 61 fantasy points. So I get both sides of it. It's not like I guess I'm going more of a balanced approach to answer the question. It's really what it is tonight. So.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to say one or the other. It's kind of a hybrid, I guess.
Yeah. Do you just should we go? They'll go position by position. I guess.
We could almost go team by team.
Yeah, that's what I was
just
thinking.
because there's 4 teams, and like again, we always talk about it on these 2-game slates. We're going to be naming guys on 5-game slates, 6-game slates. We would never talk about, but I think it is valuable to kind of go through and figure out which of these guys might actually see enough minutes to be relevant.
Yeah, so let's just close out our thoughts for the Spurs. Just in general, we kind of mentioned the bigs there for the most part. Let's just go ahead and close out the thoughts for the Spurs. And I'm just going to type up a little text.
Yeah, so I love Trey Jones. I was on a show with Chuck a couple days ago, like saying, why isn't Trey Jones starting? He's the only real point guard this team has. Like, I know that Pop wants to have a tall guy play point for whatever reason. He's obsessed with that. But Jones is awesome. So he's the one piece of chalk I really, really am comfortable with tonight. I'm probably going to have Trey Jones in almost 100% of my lineups. I would have liked him even coming off the bench here at 5K flat. Tough to find value tonight. We'll talk about some pivots in some of the other positions, but I love Trey Jones. And even if he's 80%, I'll probably have 100. So I'm eating that chalk. I do like Vassell. Definitely easier to get to on DK. But if I'm only playing one of Vassell or Keldon Johnson, I do prefer Johnson slightly just because I think the guard position is a little bit deeper today. All 3 of those guys are really solid plays. Chetty's interesting. He should get extended run here with Branham and McDermott out, but at the same time, that's not necessarily guaranteed. Julian Champagne is drawing significant ownership. He is going to be the starter, but Osman's probably the second guy off the bench. That's assuming Keldon Johnson doesn't start. So either of those guys, I think I'd want one or the other. Like, I want a lot of Champagne. I like it more than Osman here, but in lineups I don't have him, I'm pivoting to Osman. I think that's a very good, like, direct pivot. Like, one of them probably has a good game. One of them probably doesn't. And then, who else? I mean, Sochan's okay. He does have a ceiling, regardless of what position he's playing. He's probably going to start at forward here. I'm fine getting to a little bit, not excited about it. And then I will bring up Blake Wesley as just kind of an interesting dart throw. I'm not all that excited to get to him, but on a slate where we're really lacking value, he is much lower owned than some of these guys like Chetty or I don't know. The ownership's coming up. It's funny. Like, I looked at ownership about an hour ago. It was way more condensed. It looks like the field's starting to kind of level out across the board. So the plays I love here are Trey Jones. The field's with it, though. But I think I'm getting to tons of Champagne, but in lineups without him, I do like Chetty as a pivot. Not necessarily going to play them together in a lineup, though. Again, I'm not playing 150, so just keep that in mind for anyone watching.
So for Trey Jones, I have a tough time, honestly, getting to him on DraftKings. I can get it on FanDuel a little bit more. All right, when you were saying that, are you specifically saying FanDuel or is it both? Like,
No, it's tricky, man. I mean, I'm kind of a stand for this guy. I've been tooting
yeah,
his horn for a while that he should be starting. So it's like it's almost like I'm pot committed at this point. Like I've been playing
I
him
gotcha.
when he's been missing, so like I have to go to him here. But I get it. Like at that high of an ownership, I mean, if you're looking at the game logs, he hasn't been very good. But you just got to keep in mind he is starting here. I think he's going to push 30 minutes. We have seen it out of him in the past. And he does have really good chemistry with Wembanyama,
Yeah,
it seems. So I don't know. Again, if there's other value plays like in that range that I felt good
yeah,
about, I'd be more comfortable pivoting. But the other ones are all very popular. Like you're looking at Kaminga, who's super popular. I definitely feel better about Jones and like Malik Beasley on the other side. So for me, it's Jones everywhere. But it's a stand I've been taking all season. But an 80% ownership, if you could find a pivot you're comfortable with, I say go for it. But for me, I think he's going to do really well here. Finally getting a chance to start, and I think it's long overdue.
I think you actually brought up kind of an interesting talking point. Like, I actually like the idea of stacking Trey Jones and Wemby together because, you know, if Trey Jones is having a good day, it's probably because he's getting some pretty good amount of assists to Wemby, and they're probably just going to be on the court a little bit longer. Like, that's to me what we're really hoping for, like 2 extra minutes, you know, like something like
Mhm.
that.
I mean, for Wemby, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to mention, I actually don't mind Blake Wesley at that ownership right now. The game does have potential to be a blowout. We already have him projected at 21 minutes. If he's someone that gets to, I don't know, 25 minutes at 4K 3.9, I do think that's worth it. Like, there's not too much great value. Like, Osman's all right. We can get there, but I think at the ownership on tonight's, I'm okay getting there. Not hoping for much, hoping for like 18 out of him fantasy
Yeah.
points, but we do have some couple kind of comments coming in here. Got Jimmy saying it's his first time here. Well, welcome on in. Be here tomorrow again. Appreciate it. Let's see. Wiggins bounce back game. I'm going to be on him when he does. That's interesting. That's been it's
We'll
not been a
definitely touch
fun.
on that when we get to the
Yeah.
Warriors. Yeah, that's a good talking point for sure.
And then we got CW89 talk me off Moody. We'll get into that in the next game. We're going to jump into Milwaukee here in a second. And then what's the ownership on Wiggins? Again, we'll touch on that in a second. This question, though. So if you are doing just one lineup, can you trust Wemby? Trust is a tough phrase there. Like I don't think we ever trust Wemby, at least right now when he's projecting at 27 minutes. At 8.3 though, you can somewhat trust him because he's like what? He's locked into like 35 fantasy points, assuming he doesn't get into extreme foul trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, on a bigger slate, if you get 35 for guys you're paying 8K for, you're really not going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
But going to Wemby, what it's hopefully affording you the ability to do is get another kind of like mid-range pay up in there. So I talked about how I have Giannis and Murray and almost everything, but
Yeah.
if you're going to Wemby instead of Giannis, you could get maybe, I don't know, Lillard with Murray
Yeah.
and Wemby. Like it's allowing you to play less of this crummy value. Personally, I don't trust him here because of the minutes, because of Pop, because of the matchup, etc.
Yeah.
If I'm only playing one lineup, he wouldn't necessarily be in it for me, especially on FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a 2-game slate. Like, you almost don't want to trust all your plays. Like, it's not a
I
good
know.
night to try to min cash. It's not a good night to play cash games. It's a good night to take some risks, roll the dice, try to get to the top of the leaderboard if you can. But just know, I mean, it's a 2-game slate. It's already going to be super tough to get different. So playing someone like Wemby at low ownership makes a lot of sense here. Just know that more often than not, it's not going to work out for you. So if you
Yes.
really value cashing over winning, I wouldn't be playing Wemby. But if it's the type of play that you think can help you climb a leaderboard, which is what he would be if he somehow gets extended run here,
Mhm.
then I'm totally comfortable with it. But again, it's really the makeup of the slate that kind of dictates whether you're trusting him or not. And on a slate
Yeah.
like this, I don't even know that I want to trust everyone, as weird as that sounds.
No, I think that's actually a good point with the whole trusting. Like it's a 2-game slate. You shouldn't like your build really. You shouldn't unless you're going too crazy with stacking. I like that point. We did get another kind of question about that game, so about the Spurs specifically. So we'll jump back into that real quick. So, can you read it as well?
Yeah. So thinking about a min 1, max 3 of Champagne, Wesley, Osman, Mamu, and Barlow. Also a max 1 of Mamu and Barlow. So yeah, I think you're right to do the max 1 of Mamu or
Yeah.
Barlow. The odds that both of them have a ceiling here is very small. But yeah, I'm thinking like you could play.
I'm okay with
What's
it.
the other one? Like, would you want three though? Like, if you have Champagne, Osman, I
Well,
would say those are the right rules, but maybe also set one of Champagne and Osman max one, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
if you're getting Leslie with two of the others, you're okay, but you don't want to have two of the same position, if that makes sense.
yeah. I think with the lineup builder, like it's just going to spit out two, which is I
Yeah,
think what he was meaning there.
yeah, and it's like on another slate, like. I would say, yeah, maybe just max one of these guys, period. But again, it's a 2-game slate. We're struggling to find value.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm fine getting to probably two. I don't feel great about three.
Yeah. This is an interesting kind of talking point as well. It's the TNT game and whatnot. Really, his only Wemby's only chance to have like an impact for like rookie of the year voting. That doesn't really matter because it's the NBA media that votes on it. I know the NBA media actually does have some casuals that vote on it and whatnot. Like they do get kind of influenced by everyone else in the industry, but there's enough people that know what they're talking about that vote on that type of award that I don't think that that's a big point.
Yeah, like Pop isn't the type of coach to break what he's doing
Yeah.
for a narrative. It is Wemby's birthday. Like he is on TNT. Like these are all
All
things
the
that
narratives.
I want them to matter. I really want them to matter.
Yeah.
But man, it's like it's tough. And Wemby has come out and said, like, I'm trying to look for coach speak now because on a 2-game slate, these are the type of things that are sometimes worth digging in on. He
Yeah.
wants the minutes restriction lifted. He's been vocal about it. He doesn't want to be limited. And apparently he checked himself back into that Grizzlies game against Pop's will. Like, I think the limit on him is 24 right now.
Oh
And
boy.
Wemby checked himself into the game.
I didn't
So
know
I don't
that.
know if
That's
he's pissed
awesome.
off at him or what, but like, man, so with
That's
3
great.
minutes left, I'm reading this out loud. After lobbying for a few more minutes after exiting with 3:07 left, Wemby checked himself in with 1:46 left. After he recorded a dunk with 1:13 to go, Pop pulled him, and he said, "I wasn't allowed to sub him in, I wasn't allowed to sub in then, but I still did it." And then the coach took me out right after. He's calling Pop the coach, which is interesting. Um, and yeah, I mean, this relationship seems like it's honestly the best case scenario. Like, there's conspiracy theorists who are like, they wanted Wemby with Pop. Like, this is a perfect fit. He's going to develop him
Mhm.
well. And I think he's doing a good job. I'll give Pop his
Yeah.
credit. But if you're a young player, you're a stud, you're getting all these people in your ear and your camp telling you you're the next big thing, you're going to carry the league once LeBron's gone. You don't want to be playing 24 to 26 minutes a night. So, like, there is some contention here. Man, like, I want to believe. I want to believe he's going to get extended run, but
Yeah.
there's just nothing to bank on. And Pop's so stubborn. Like, I feel like he'd play him 22 just to rub it in our faces. So it's
For
like,
real though.
yeah. So, like, I think we're right to project him for 25, 26. I think if you're looking at projections, that's what you do to play it safe. I think he's under owned in large field tournaments on both sites, but he is a risky play here. Again, you're paying a lot for limited minutes, and as much as he wants to play more and we want him to, we can't bank on it yet. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough, man. It's tough.
And also, like to your point earlier, like it is a more difficult matchup. Like you are going against Brook Lopez, you are going against Giannis. Sure, Bobby Portis is not the best matchup, and he's going to get some run in this game. But really, like as we pivot into Milwaukee, like you could make an argument that Brook Lopez, and I don't want to make this argument, but like at his price tag is a much better. The data actually says so, so you can make that is a much better play than Wemby tonight, given the pricing. 43% on DraftKings, 6.2 is popping up on the OF or on the OF value rating, or sorry, yeah, whatever, the DK value rating, really popping off there. Projecting at 32 minutes, like he could easily crush against the Spurs. Is he someone you're looking at like as a starting point tonight against the Spurs?
I mean, on DK, I do think he's too cheap. 6,200 just feels wrong. And yeah,
Yeah.
like to your point, I mean, on paper, he is the better play than Wemby. He's 2K cheaper on both sites. Obviously, he doesn't have the same fantasy point per minute rate, but he's going to play like 12 more minutes. So I don't know. I like Lopez a lot. The thing is, he is very popular on DK,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty comfortable getting away from him. There are other centers. I think Jackson Davis, if he starts, is going to be tougher chalk to avoid.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably going to want to fade one of those two. I think most people who are kind of leaning into the chalk have Lopez and Jackson Davis in their lineups. If we were saying to play cash games, those would probably be your two centers. But yeah, I love Lopez here. Prefer him on DK. But at the ownership, I mean, he's probably a little over-owned on DK, a little under-owned on FanDuel. But you're
Yeah.
paying more than 1K more for him on FanDuel and using your only center spot, which makes it a little bit tricky.
We did get a question about like Portis or Lopez, and it's honestly as simple as slate dependent. Like I think on DK you're just going Lopez, on FanDuel you're just going Portis. Like it's as simple as that. Just giving, and the chalk is that as well for a reason because they're both clearly mispriced. But Portis can get there on
Yeah.
DraftKings. Don't get me wrong. Like he can get hot. The game could blow out. But he's not really getting extra blowout run. That's just not really happening for him. So,
Yeah.
to me, Brook is the safer play on DraftKings.
Yeah, and I will say this, like with the ownership discrepancy on FanDuel, I know Jackson Davis is a center we're going to be getting to a lot of,
Yeah.
but he actually has forward eligibility on FanDuel, so you could play Lopez as a lower owned pivot off of Portis. I actually think that's a really smart way to get different in tournaments on FanDuel. Go with Lopez at center at 20% owned, fade the 45 to 48%. Portis, just put Jackson Davis in at power forward, and then you can play Giannis or not play Giannis. But I think
Yeah.
either that's one way you're getting like leverage in a 20% pivot that does have some direct correlation. It's rare that both of them go off in the same game. So on
Yeah.
FanDuel, I actually like that as a pivot. Again, you're using up that center spot. You're not going to be able to play Joker or some of these other guys, but I'm fine with it. Again, you can play Jackson Davis at that power forward if you want.
And just kind of looking at the pricing for the Bucks, like it honestly seems like a much better day on FanDuel for the Bucks. Like Damian Lillard seems like honestly way too low owned on FanDuel, where he's 8.6. He's only 47% owned, 21% owned at 9.3 on DraftKings. I would say that pricing on DraftKings is correct. Malik Beasley, as well as someone where it's a pretty big pricing discrepancy, $500, only 23% projected owned, projected at 27 minutes. Those are two that really stand out to me as plays. And even Chris Middleton is still a pretty good play. The nice thing about him is you can play small forward for him as a play. Are you getting to all three of those on FanDuel? Like I feel like those are all like clearly mispriced, as is obviously Portis.
Yeah, so the thing is, I'm heavy on Giannis, which is taking me off Dame a little bit. I
Okay.
also really like Murray, who's about 15% lower
Yeah.
owned than Dame on FanDuel. So that's just a stand I'm taking. But I'm not going to say don't play Dame. At that price,
Yeah.
he's an excellent play. But even consider him on DK. And again, some of these correlation spots we talk about, like you don't want to play Dame with Giannis, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 2-game slate. Like if the other game blows out for some reason, this one doesn't, you're going to be fine having those two guys in your lineup.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think too deeply into that tonight. But the other one's Middleton, and this is interesting. He's almost 60% on FanDuel.
Yeah.
7,100 isn't a bad price, but at the ownership, I mean, what do you want out of him? Like, you want over 40 fantasy points, probably.
What he did
He's
last night. That's
Yeah,
what you
and
want.
I mean, he can get there, and we have seen it,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty comfortable maybe going elsewhere.
Yeah.
You could put him at forward or shooting guard. I think there are enough other options to maybe pivot there. Like it's tough to get away from some of this chalk. I think Middleton on FanDuel, where he's the second highest owned play on the entire slate, I'm pretty comfortable going elsewhere. Can it burn me? Certainly, but I'm almost 100% Giannis tonight, so I'm pretty comfortable kind of taking that stand.
As a Bucks fan, I have no idea why the heck he's even playing tonight. I really thought as the day started that he was going to be out tonight, just back on a back-to-back. You were clearly trying to limit his minutes. You still kind of are capping his minutes. Why is he playing tonight in a game where you are 10-point favorites? I get they've been on a little bit of a losing trend against the Pacers, whatever. They have you numbered this year. I'm worried about his minutes a little bit. Like why play him a lot?
Yeah, this is the first back-to-back, I think, since he's been hurt.
For him, yeah.
That he's playing. Like, I'm going through the game logs right now. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he gets limited. And it's not, again, this is not something we know for sure. He should play his normal 32. But it's another reason to maybe consider a fade when he is that popular.
Yeah. And it's the ceiling you're hoping for is really 41. Can he get higher than that? Sure, he can get really hot. But all in all, I haven't really been able to get there on either site. One player that I think could be decent, really both of them, but I think Beauchamp, if the game does blow out, he has a decent chance to be an okay play at 3.5 on DraftKings, 3.9 or 3.8 on FanDuel. I could get there, but all in all, with everyone healthy, it definitely feels more thin today than I originally thought to start the day, but could be a decent punt if it blows out. That's what you're banking. It's Tristan Thompson again. That's what it is.
Yeah, if there's any punt for the Bucks, I'm considering it would be Beauchamp. I really don't like playing Connington. I mean,
Yeah.
Campaign's been getting minutes, but again, not
Payne's
something I'm very
okay.
interested in. Yeah, I mean, Payne would probably be next after Beauchamp,
Yeah.
but I'm really not getting to much of either, honestly.
Yeah. And what's surprising, the last game against the Spurs, only 6 minutes, but over the past 3 games, 21, 11, and 21. That's over his past 3 games, to be clear. So let's go ahead. Are we good to move on to the next game? Do you want to jump into Denver versus Golden State?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So which team do you want to start off with? Because I feel like both teams are pretty good talking points. We kind of mentioned both of them.
I mean, we got a lot of questions on the Warriors, so I guess let's start with them.
Okay. So I'll let you start kind of talking about it as I change the text. Gotta.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so I mean, we talk about how Pop is one of the hardest coaches to read. I mean, second place might be Steve Kerr. I know Rick Carlisle's up there too, but yeah, I mean, he's been shuffling the starting lineup with Draymond out. We saw a few games where Pods was starting. It sounds like moving forward until Dre comes back, it's going to be Curry, Paul, Thompson, Kuminga, TJD. I like Jackson Davis here. I think he's solid. It's a little bit sketchy at the ownership against Joker. Maybe he falls into foul trouble or something like that. But at the same time, on a slate where we're really lacking value, he does feel a bit too cheap for what we're projecting him for, which is around 27 minutes. Looney historically has gotten decent run against Joker. I mean, I haven't gone that deep back into game logs, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did get some run here over TJD. So I don't mind that as like a tournament pivot. Probably something I'm going to do in a few lineups. Again, TJD, one of the most popular plays on the entire slate on FanDuel. Certainly safer than a Kevon Looney, but if there were ever a matchup where Kerr goes back to his vet, kind of gives him some extra run, it probably would be here against Joker. I'm not that interested in Curry. I know he's low owned. I know he has upside. It's just like, I don't know what it is. Like he just hasn't been hitting the ceiling lately. I mean, I say this after he's coming off one of his best games of the season, but he had 4 steals and a block in that spot. I don't know that that's something we can really rely on. At the low ownership, it's kind of similar to Wemby. Like he's not going to be in my first, second, third lineup, but he is lower owned than maybe he should be on a 2-game slate, just knowing what he's capable of. But I don't love the matchup. I think some people are going to maybe look at that last game and say, "Oh, hey, he's back." And yeah, he had a good game. He was 8 for 11 from 3, but how often are we getting 4 steals from Steph Curry? Just very, very rare in my opinion. So I'm pretty comfortable getting away from him. But at the ownership, it's like, logically speaking, like you should probably get over the field. Chris Paul was, or go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
You're talking me into Curry and Lillard by not like what
the
way you're describing them though. I'm like, man, those are great leverage plays there. You're right. They shouldn't.
It's like and that's the thing. I mean, we're projecting this ownership here, and I'm surprised because like an hour ago, I was looking and Dame was super chalky, and it's kind of come down.
Yeah,
and Curry, I think, was a little more popular than he was, and it's coming down. But like, if you're playing large field tournaments, and that's kind of like if you're playing these higher risk contests, like you probably should get to some low on Curry. You probably should get to some low on Dame. When I made my big stands on Murray earlier in the day, he wasn't as popular as he is now. So like. Of those 3 guards, I like Murray best at his price. Yeah. I'm going to have more Murray than the others.
I agree.
But when you look at the ownership, if it continues to split this way, like you need to get to some Curry. And yeah, I do think that last game is probably a little bit of an outlier against Orlando.
But it's Orlando. Like Orlando's been pretty good too, like defensively, like surprisingly good. So it was a little shocking that he did it against them.
Yeah, and it's been a while since he's had a big road game. Like those, if you go through his game logs, the last like 3 or 4 50s are all at home. Obviously, he's amazing at home most of the time. This is a home game, so I don't know. I'm gonna get to some Curry now, and it's funny. I came in like I'm not gonna play much Curry, and like now I'm sitting here like, damn it, how is he only 20% owned? I have to get to him now.
So if he gets up to like 35. Which I would say is probably correct. Is that where you'd be like, all right, we don't need to jump on him as much now?
Yeah, I'd probably match the field. Like right now at 20, though, I might get 40, 50. Like, and I'm thinking like maybe I pay up double at guard and come off Giannis a little bit. I'm just thinking in my head, like, how am I going to have to make these pivots? Because I do still love Murray. But yeah, just seeing that ownership on him is a little bit shocking, especially at a home game.
We did just get a quick comment from Power saying that, here we go, that Chris Middleton will be mindful of his minutes. But like, what the heck does that mean? Like, is that just starting, playing 7 minutes, maybe closing out the final 5 minutes of the first half, and then doing the exact same thing in the second half? I'm assuming that because that's what they did at the start of the year with him. That to
Yeah.
me is them being mindful because they were mindful of his minutes at the start of the year, and that's what it was. And that's not enough. And so I'm hoping not that we have 200 viewers in here. I was going to say, I'm hoping that many people are watching this right now because that seems like a stay
Fade
away.
Middleton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on FanDuel where he's expensive,
Yes.
I might take him out of every single lineup. He's very popular there too. I think I need to refresh at this point. But last we
Yeah.
checked, he was 58% owned, which is
Yeah.
just crazy, even if he's not limited at that price. So I'm going to pull back my Middleton exposure. I really hope ownership's accurate today. It's very tough to project ownership on a 2-game slate.
And we'll
But
refresh
yeah,
it at the end of the video too, guys.
yeah, and
Just
like on these bigger slates, like NBA is the most projectable sport, but on these smaller slates, ownership's even more valuable. Like you got to zig when the field zags as much as possible. And I mean, I'm very comfortable pulling back Middleton, who's still 58% owned according to our projections, and
yeah.
getting more Curry, who's only 21% and 17% on DK. So.
And then getting to kind of the next comment from Jimmy here, pretty much saying that he's trying to find 3 high floor guys. And I think that's a perfect pivot to get into Denver because Jamal Murray does feel like that high floor play tonight. He isn't as chalky as I would have thought being a 2-game slate because you mentioned that he's your favorite play. He's kind of the clear and obvious play to me as well. 48% and 32% seems too low. Sure, his minutes, we wish that they were a little bit higher. And sure, with Reggie Jackson being active tonight, that makes him slightly less appealing, but it's a great matchup.
Yeah.
Just looking like a stellar play.
Yeah, that's the floor play of all floor plays, in my opinion. I think he's good for around 40 fantasy points. At his price is pretty much just what you need. Jackson is active, but he's been healthy. He's been in there. He's not taking up too much of those minutes. And I'll kind of use this to transition to the discussion on Joker. Like, Joker still has as high of a ceiling as anyone in the NBA, but it's coming much less often than it was last season. And the reason for that is Murray's healthy, and he's taking a lot of that usage away from him. So I love getting to Murray. I wish he was even lower owned than he is. I still want to be over the field if I can find a way. But yeah, I think he's an excellent floor play. And I mean, just to finish answering that question, I mean, it's a little bit tricky.
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish because, like, Giannis is obviously a big, awesome floor play tonight.
Yeah,
He's priced up. It's just like what are you going to do with that, right? That's not that actionable for information. But
yeah. I mean, at his price, TJD at center is probably pretty
yeah,
solid. I do like
honestly,
Vassell, maybe. Yeah,
yeah.
but I'm all over Trey Jones. But like, I
Trey
do think,
Jones, yeah,
yeah. I mean, if Trey pisses Pop off somehow, then maybe he gets pulled early
yeah,
or something like that. But yeah, I would say Murray is like the floor play of all floor plays. I think if you're looking at Warriors, Jackson Davis is probably the safest. Kuminga, if he starts at that DK price,
Mhm.
pretty confident he's going to hit value. He's been playing closer to 30 minutes consistently, not consistently, but 34 last time. That's definitely a good sign. But yeah, I think it's definitely Murray and then one of TJD or Kuminga probably, and they
yeah.
both come in the late game. So
All the Denver players though are all kind of high owned, and if Aaron Gordon's getting 33 minutes, I would say he's. Don't want to say like a safe floor play, but at that pricing, kind of feels all right. Same thing with MPJ. Like they're all pretty cheap, given them decent matchup, getting the close game. Like I'd be okay, honestly, ending up with Murray, Gordon, MPJ just at their pricing. Like again, that's more of a balance build tonight, but like I'm okay getting there. What are your kind of thoughts on the rest of the Nuggets plays that we have tonight?
yeah, so Gordon's one game removed from an injury. He came back and
Yeah,
played 24 minutes. He looked fine though. I imagine he gets back up to 30 here. So at his price, he's solid on both sites. I think Porter has the higher ceiling, but I imagine he's more popular and he's more expensive. So I don't know. It's almost like a one or the other situation, but at the same
yeah,
time, it's a 2-game slate. Like you're probably fine to just play both. Murray's my favorite Nugget play tonight.
yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I'm close to 100% on Giannis. So for that reason, I'm playing like no Jokic. But who is it? Josh Gillum brought it up. 14% on Joker is criminal, in my opinion. Like you almost have to play some just off game theory alone. So again, I'm heavier on FanDuel here. He's closer to 30% on FanDuel, but I do want to make sure I get some Joker because that is criminal on a 2-game slate. It's a bit
Yeah.
insane to see that ownership low. But again, I think Murray is the better play. He's been seeing the increased usage. I really like Giannis here. So for all those reasons, you get why I'm where I'm at, but the field's kind of in
Yeah.
the same place. So you kind of almost have to go against your instinct at times to get different on these two gamers. And as uncomfortable as it is, when you see like a 14% ownership on Joker, yeah, you get a little bit more Joker in your life if you can.
Yeah. So Daniels is kind of asking, just that was a terrible pivot, but he's kind of asking to get into the next question there, or stating kind of interested in Looney. Played pretty well against Denver the last two games, minutes wise. It was different though. Like when they played, it was kind of different. One, Jackson Davis got into foul trouble in one of those games. I mean, I agree. Like I think Looney's a decent play for that reason, but it is with caution because the first game it was a completely different kind of rotation and whatnot. So it's really a one game sample size in which Jackson Davis got into foul trouble. And so I think that's more of why Looney played minutes. At the same time, that could very well happen again tonight. And so that's, if you're playing Looney, that's really what you're hoping for. So you're not playing any Jackson Davis. You're hoping he gets into foul trouble.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them in the same lineup. And I will say on FanDuel, like there's a crazy ownership discrepancy. But the thing is, you can play Jackson Davis at forward. You can't play Looney at forward, so you have to use up that center position. I don't mind it as a pivot though, because one, he could get in foul trouble, or Kirk could see that Looney's having a decent game with Joker there, which has happened from time to time
Yeah.
historically. So I do like it as a tournament pivot. I just think Jackson Davis is the much safer play. He's the better play. But again, the field's right there with you, so you almost have to go against logic to get different. And it's not going to surprise anyone if Looney ends up having a good game here, I think. So I don't mind him at low ownership. Not something I'm confident in at all. But if there were a slate where maybe he gets a little bit more run, I think it might be this game here against Denver. So again, and just another point on what he said, this is the first game that they're playing Denver that Jackson Davis was the starter. Jackson Davis was named the starter, I think, earlier this week. So in both of those other situations, he was coming off the bench. So a lot of different kind of nuances this time around.
Yeah. And then kind of just getting into the closing thoughts. Do we want to try to give a first lick build? Because it will be, I mean, it's a 2 game slate. We can attempt to, but it'll be rough. Just know that, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we could try. Why not?
All right. So let's just do Trey Jones. We'll do Giannis. We'll do Murray. Is that fine? And Jackson Davis, if we can.
Yep, I'm fine with all that.
All right.
Trey Jones, Giannis, Murray. I don't think you have the screen pulled up.
Oh, yeah, that's my bad. That's a good call.
And then I think we go with one of Champagne or Osman.
Yeah. They're both around the same price, right? And ownership as well.
I mean, Champagne is more.
Oh, he's higher priced. Yeah.
He's higher priced, but lower owned. If we could get him, I do prefer him of the two.
Yeah. We do need a shooting guard spot. We'll go with him for now.
For now.
There we go. And then small forward. That's where it kind of sucks going Trey Jones and Jamal Murray. I think that's why Middleton is chalky, because you're either going Keldon Johnson or Middleton.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them you don't feel good about.
Yeah, someone brought up Wiggins as a potential bounce back game. I mean, he has it in his bag. I mean, he has the upside. I don't think it's crazy. The other thing, I think that's why Osman's getting all the love he is. Like, if you went Osman there, then you'd probably come off Champagne. Actually, we could move Champagne to forward, I think, right?
Someone mentioned Moses Moody as well at the start of the video.
Talk him off of Moses Moody. Yeah, I mean,
I can't actually now looking at it. It kind of makes sense. Like if you're trying to find a forward or a shooting guard, it's like no. If you're trying to find a forward, small forward, I get it. Guard,
I mean,
no.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't even think he's been hurt, and he's been DNP-CD the last 2 games. He hasn't played 20 minutes since December 12th, which is almost a month away. Even with Draymond out, Pods is in the rotation before him. They're still getting Wiggins minutes. I mean, we're still seeing Saric. Like, they've been running these bigger lineups. So I think the reasons you get away from him is because maybe he doesn't even see the floor tonight. But, yeah, on a 2-game slate, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I don't mind him as a punt, but very, very, very risky because he's not getting consistent minutes.
I guess I would rather go with, like, Beauchamp if we're going to go that low. Like, because at least you're hoping for a blowout run then at that point. But
or what if we move Champagne to small forward and we go something else at shooting guard, like
I honestly
KCP.
think I honestly think Osman, but KCP's fine.
I just don't like them together, but maybe that
I
doesn't
hear you
matter.
there. No, I
Yeah,
hear you there.
KCP
I
has
mean,
upside.
Vassell, then we really strapped, but he's kind of chalky, kind of an upside play. I mean, Malik Beasley's a better play on FanDuel, very much shot dependent. Don't really want to get there. I get KCP. I get the appeal for that. This is why I was mentioning like Blake Wesley as a play, because like blowout run, that's what you're hoping for. You're literally just hoping, get me 18, heck, give me 15, and I'm happy on a 2-game slate. And
Yeah, I don't think
that way,
Wesley's crazy. Yeah, I think the like safe play there would probably be KCP at the price,
mhm,
but
we'll try it. 4
yeah.
4.7 left over then. Could go Sarich. We know he's
Yeah.
going to get minutes. Osman.
Yeah. I guess it's Sarge. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't feel great about it, but it's
See,
probably
this
him.
is again, guys, to our point at the start of the video, you are gonna hate a majority of your build on a 2-game slate. That's just how it's gonna work out, especially if you are trying to fit Giannis into your build. So that's where I'm probably gonna enter something along these lines, but that's where I'm also doing a fair and balanced build today, where I'm going with Lillard as a design fade on Giannis and just hoping that Giannis doesn't crush. That way I'm saving 4K ish and trying to get lucky in full disclosure, but I don't
Yeah.
feel good about it.
Yeah, and I'm going the opposite way. I'm playing almost 100%
Yeah.
Giannis, playing no Dame or Curry. And now I want to get to Curry at his ownership, but playing a ton of Jamal Murray. So we'll see. 2-game slate. I mean, we got a bigger slate tomorrow. So for those who are new, definitely welcome. Appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, I got to hop into Discord. I'm on double duty tonight.
Oh,
So
sorry.
check the no, you're good. Check the links in the description below. Definitely come back tomorrow. We got a good group of guys here for NBA. We're on here every day, same time.
Yep, I'll do the Discord plug here real quick. So yeah, guys, he just mentioned, we're on at the same time every single day for the most part, unless it's a really crazy slate. And then we're going to be live on the Discord chat every single slate, 30 minutes before lock. So jump on in there. Link's going to be to the description below of this video. So we'll get into our literal final closing thoughts for this slate. But you can also get Nick's in a few minutes when you jump in the Discord chat. But yeah, what are your closing thoughts for right now?
Yeah, closing thoughts are you got to take some risks tonight. I mean, I'm going to play almost 100% Giannis. Hope that game stays close. I think it will on the back-to-back. Going to have almost no Joker, which I don't feel great about. Yeah, it takes some risks tonight. Don't be playing cash games and putting a bunch of money down, because if you have one play wrong, you're probably going to miss. The other big thing I'll say is I'm completely fading Middleton. That coach speak
Yeah.
is really making me confident in that fade. I already thought he was a bit overpriced. So those are my final thoughts.
To second that, Beasley and I don't want to say Beauchamp, but slightly would become better plays as well if Middleton is going to only play, let's say, max of 28 minutes.
I like it.
All right, but that's going to be it, guys. Again, jump on in here tomorrow at the same time. When you do, make sure to hit the like button when you jump on in. But yeah, thanks for being here.
Take care, everyone.